Dr. Stephen Lowe, Ryan Listerman, AdamRevival. We're going to be discussing the historical and biblical roots of the conflict that we are seeing in Israel and Palestine currently. These things go all the way back to the Bible. They were foretold in the Bible. Similar things have occurred in these lands throughout history. So we're just going to kind of touch base on that. Sound good to you, Ryan?
Yeah, Steve, why can't just everyone get along?
Yeah, can't get along because they're not supposed to, right? So let's go all the way back to Genesis 21, and let's talk about what we're seeing here today and the biblical roots of what we're seeing here today, okay? So let's start with Abraham and Sarah, okay? So Abraham and Sarah, obviously God, made his declarations to Abraham, made his promises to Abraham that all of his descendants were going to, be like the sand. So Sarah was barren. She was old. She couldn't have children. And she then told Abraham to go get a new wife called Hagar, who was an Egyptian woman. She was of Egyptian descent. And so Abraham obliged her. And, we're not condoning polygamy here. The Bible is very clear on polygamy. That's not the discussion today. Abraham bed and married Hagar. And then they bore a son called Ishmael. Okay? So time goes on, and God comes down with some angels and tells Abraham that he's going to bear Sarah a son, to Sarah's disbelief. She was old. She was an old lady. And anyway, so God does bear them a son, and Sarah has a son, and his name is Isaac. Okay? And, we're going to fast forward. We're kind of jumping around. I'm just trying to present a timeline here. So Isaac... God tells Abraham to go sacrifice Isaac on the temple or on the mount, and he does. He takes him up there, and as we know, God tells Abraham to stop once Isaac is on the altar to be sacrificed. He then blesses Isaac and promises the land of Israel, which was Canaan at the time. So, as a result of this blessing to Isaac, the promised land by God, Abraham and Sarah then, and God kind of, banish Ishmael and Hagar from the promised land. Ishmael and Hagar then go off. Ishmael, and the Bible tells us that Ishmael was a wild donkey of a man, okay? And that's important. Now, Ishmael and Hagar are then cast away from Israel, and later down the road, Hagar tells Ishmael to marry an Egyptian woman. And, remember, Hagar herself was Egyptian, okay? Yeah. So Ishmael effectively, upon marrying an Egyptian woman, becomes the father of the modern-day Arab people, okay? He is the father of the Arab people. What we're seeing today, okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay. So we have Ishmael and Hagar. Ishmael now being the father of the Arab people, and then we have Isaac. Let's fast forward to Judges 4, and you will see Gideon. You will see Gideon warring with the Ishmaelites. Okay, the Ishmaelites are attacking Israel, trying to come into their borders. Jumping the border wall. Very similar to what we're seeing today. And you'll see in Gideon, or in Judges 4, you'll see Gideon, once they conquer the Ishmaelites, they remove the pendants and the jewels from the Ishmaelites' camels. And those pendants and jewels were the symbol of the god of the Ishmaelites. And those symbols were a crescent moon. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is Islam as we see it today. Islam as we see it today are the descendants of the Ishmaelites. And then the Jewish people are the descendants of Isaac. Now, from the time of Gideon finding these crescent moon symbols, let's fast forward 1,500 years to a man called Muhammad. A man called Muhammad comes along and then, treacherously writes the Quran, stealing from the Bible, making new false religion, stuff like this, denoting Jesus to just a prophet, putting Allah up here. It was a wartime thing, was Islam. Our God is better than your God type thing. So as he's writing the Quran, Muhammad changes the story. He switches the roles of Ishmael and Isaac within the Quran. So now you have, per the Quran, you have Ishmael being taken to the top of the mountain and sacrificed and blessed the land of Israel, okay, instead of Isaac. So literally, when we see Palestine and Israel today, these are the descendants of Ishmael and Isaac warring over that promised land to Isaac.
And it's important to denote from an archaeological standpoint is we have documents that far predate the Quran. So, that's how we can, determine that it wasn't, the Quran was the altered history, not the original history.
Correct. We have written evidence. We have archaeological evidence. The Quran is incoherent insofar that it's very disputed, and a lot of people believe that the man called Muhammad was actually not even an actual person. To whereas the historicity of Jesus Christ is not really debated. I mean, secularists and Christians alike, religious, non-religious, people don't really dispute whether Jesus Christ was a historical figure. There are books, in fact, written that Muhammad never existed, though.
Yeah. Well, what would you say then? What when we depict, in Hollywood, it kind of depicts the Muslim people as peaceful and wanting to, they were invaded by the Christians and the Crusades. What kind of happened there?
So let me explain to you the three phases of jihad. This is Islam in a whole. Okay, what I'm going to say to you is the entire beginning, purpose, and end of Islam. There's three phases. The phase number one is when Muhammad was in Mecca. He had less than 150 followers. Okay, we'll call this the secretive phase of jihad. All right, and the secretive phase of jihad is when Muhammad and his followers, they claim that Allah, per the Quran, whatever, enabled them to lie and deceive others, right? To pretend, and there's actually a doctrine, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but there's a doctrine for this in Islam, and it's when they're able to lie and deceive so that they could, because they don't have the numbers to enforce or impose their religion. So this is jihad number one, phase number one, secretive jihad. So what they do is they'll go in and then they will start to pretend to be like the populace, try to fit in with the populace, and then start corrupting the populace and turning them slowly to their faith system, right, to Islam. Phase number two of jihad is when they have about 20 to 30% or so of the population, and this is called defensive jihad. Now they have the numbers to defend their religion. So if you go against the Quran, if you go against Islam, now they can attack you and they will defend Islam. The final phase is phase number three of jihad, which is where we are currently, and that's offensive jihad. It is when they have the numbers to go offensive and impose and subvert the subjugants, which are the people of the book, the Christians, and the non-believers. And it's like Surah 929, Allah commands them to kill non-believers or subjugate people of the book, which would be us. So they don't have to kill us, but we have to pay tax to them, acknowledging that their God is higher than ours. That is Islam in a whole. It's three phases of jihad. Phase number one, secretive. Phase number two, defensive. Phase number three, offensive. That's all that Islam is.
And that's where the kind of the idea that there is a peaceful cohabitation of religion, because you have historical precedent where in the Holy Land during the days of the Crusades, you did have Christians and Muslims working together and doing business together, but there was a power structure. It was like the Muslims were peaceful as long as we were subjects to them, and the Christians have historically been known to be willing to be the subjects in the more peaceful turning the other cheek type.
And we had a whole video about that, right? The weak Christianity. The God of the Bible is not a pacifist. He upturned and demolished nations in his righteousness. Jesus Christ was not a pacifist. He told the apostles to go buy swords, to wear swords, right? We are not to be just these weak, frail people. And the Christian pacifist worldview is exactly why the world is where it is today, right? Because they have taken a back foot. Well, we'll just pray for them. If someone comes and kicks your door in and tries to murder your wife, child, whatever, are you just going to pray for them? No, I'm gonna send them to wherever they need to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna kill them if they threaten to harm my family or my loved ones. And the Bible obligates us as Christian men to protect our family and loved ones. Paul tells us that we need to provide for those that we love. Well, providing means a whole bunch of things, up to and including defending them, providing them life, and providing them protection.
Yeah. I think it's also important to recognize that where there are attractive elements to Islam I know a lot of young men have been beginning to gravitate towards the religion because there is a bit of a serving your community elements. There's a lot of things from Christianity that are in Islam, but at its core is polygamy, barbarism, and
Pedophilia.
it's the worst.
Pedophilia.
Exactly. It allows it kind of converts, it recruits young men by not having that, allowing them to not have to sacrifice some of the core things that are like was attractive to being the barbaristic, heathen type man that seems attractive but ultimately leads to our demise in the end.
And there's this whole thing about Islam being the religion of peace, right? You constantly hear that it's the religion of peace. And I want to make one thing clear. I'm not speaking against all Muslims, because the majority of Western Muslims, especially, I come from
are in phase one. They're in phase one.
They're in phase one. But they don't even know what phase one is. They
True.
don't know their own religion. They don't read and study their Quran. They get told from their imam. They aren't like Christians, to where the Christian will go and have a personal relationship with God. Right? They're not like that. They get told what to believe from the imam, and they don't really know their own word. Like, they don't know that Muhammad had a 6-year-old wife named Aisha that he consummated with when she was 9 years old. They don't know the rituals of bachi bazi, which occurs in Afghanistan, northern Afghanistan, to where they rape young boys. They dress them up as children or as women, and then they rape and gangbang young boys. And that's hard terminology, so I'll probably just bleep those words so we don't get banned. But that's the sick truth of it. But the Muslims that are peaceful, right, aren't Muslims of their own book. They're not practicing their own book. They're practicing what they're told. And you're right, though. It is jihad number one.
Yes. Yeah, it's an informational jihad, so that's where it's important as Christians to recognize the religion for what it is, and vehemently defend Christianity as the good it is, the good that's created our culture, that's responsible for all our prosperity, and all our comforts that we currently enjoy.
And let me bring something else up, Ryan. If you now all the things that we just discussed, people will go maybe, oh, that's crazy. Everything you just said, Islam's not bad, you're a bigot, you're whatever. No, I love all people. I do. I have Muslim friends that I love, I'd give my life for. It's not about that. It's about the truth. So everything that I just said about Isaac and Ishmael, right? Everything I just said about the Quran, about jihad, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Let's just stop. Let's take a 10,000-foot view and look at the world around us. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's look at the mayor of London, Khan, or whatever his name is. He's a Muslim.
Yeah.
There are several, and England's pretty much a Muslim state at this point, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty much a Muslim state. If you look around Western civilization, you will see these appointings of governors, prime ministers, and stuff like that, to where you go, that's a funny thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a white country being run by an Arab man all of a sudden. Or let's go to the Book of Revelations. Let's look at the horsemen of the apocalypse, right? You have the red horseman, the black horseman, the white horseman, and the pale horseman, which is green, translated into green in the Hebrew. Okay, so we have red, white, red, white, black, and green, right? Now I want you to look at the state of Israel and look at the flags that surround the state of Israel. Okay? Look at any Muslim nation's flag. Not all of them, but most of them. Look at Syria's flag. Look at Iraq's flag. Look at Iran's flag. Look at Jordan's flag. Look at, dude, I could go on. They are red, they are white, they are black, and they are green, and they align perfectly with biblical scripture as to what we're seeing today.
This goes back to, the early days of Islam and its violent spread across, Europe, or the Asia countries. It's not it wasn't a peacefully spread religion the way Christianity was. Christianity was spread actually by Christians sacrificing themselves to torture and martyrdom, whereas Islam was, the Islamic nation before the Crusades ever even started. The Islam nation was constantly at war in Spain. It was attacking Europe lands on the consistent basis, and the Crusades were a response to that. The Crusades were a defensive campaign, even though the Crusades seemed offensive as we left Europe and went to Jerusalem. It was kind of
it was an encroachment.
Exactly. The same way you would when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we didn't just build trenches and stay in California. We went and we took them out so that it wouldn't happen again. That was what the Crusades were.
And that's exactly what we're seeing Israel do right now, right? Israel, there's all of this talk about genocide going on. I don't want to spend too much time on this because there's people are very emotional and rightfully so on this subject matter. But I will say this, when you look at it reasonably and you look at what actually occurred here, you see what occurred in Judges 4. You see the Ishmaelites breach the border wall into Israel, kill a bunch of civilians, and then retreat. And then you will see the Israelites going out and trying to kill Hamas. Now, they talk about genocide, this and that. You're seeing Harvard get toppled right now. You're seeing Columbia get toppled right now by all of these protests. But the reality is there is no genocide. There is no genocide. The Israeli army, and I'm not saying whether I support Israel or not. I guess I will just say this. I do not support the Israeli government as much as I don't support the American government at the time. At the time of this recording, okay? I don't. But I do support innocent life. I do support innocent life. And what I will say is that, do we even know what a genocide is? As they're sitting here screaming genocide, 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 and then calling for actual genocide of the Israeli people. The Israeli army isn't going out intentionally targeting civilians. That's genocide, right? And a normal, reasonable mind can comprehend that and understand that. What they did was they chased the Ishmaelites back into the Gaza Strip, and the Ishmaelites, being the cowards that they are, dug themselves in under the civilian population of Palestine. There are going to be civilian deaths. There are going to be civilian casualties. That is not Israel's fault. That is the Ishmaelites' fault, right? It is. They went in and they dug in underneath of their civilian population. They're using them as human shields, as they always have. So I stand with Israel insofar that the Israeli military needs to eradicate Hamas. Hamas has to go.
And to your earlier point about support this or support that, I think it's where I kind of stand on these issues has always been, and this is how I've always stood on issues like this, is I support the state of Florida. that's my home right now. Those are my borders. So seeing, I don't fully pay attention to world affairs. So I tend not to throw my opinion into things I'm not an expert at. But as far as the Florida, this my home, I recognize that this is a should be a Christian state, and we should keep it a Christian state because that's what built this great state of Florida. And hopefully under our leadership here that we maintain, we don't let this encroachment happen where we're taken over by Islam, because I've seen it happen in northern states, and when I see that happen, I'm thankful that I live here in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I happen to be in one of those northern states. I happen to come from the most dense Arab population in the United States, which is the city of Dearborn. That is, my hometown. and I happen to know a lot of Muslim people, and I want to reiterate, I love those people. I do love them. I would fight and die for them. But I also know Islam from an academic standpoint, from a historical standpoint. I am a Christian. As a Christian, I pray for all people. I hope that they find Jesus Christ. I hope that Jesus Christ reveals himself to these people, and so that they can, get the salvation that Jesus Christ offers. I hope that the facade of Allah is broken, and I hope that the truth of Jesus Christ prevails in these darkest of times. I do feel like much more is to come regarding this subject matter. I don't think this is the end of the jihad number 3 that we're seeing in Western civilization, and it started right here in America. The start of jihad number 3 started right here in America in 2008 with a man called Hussein Obama.
I think it's important too to recognize that salvation can never ever be spread by the sword, and Christians, our primary focus is the salvation of God's kingdom. It doesn't matter what there's no way you can force someone to change their heart, and that's why that's why our religion's always been a spread a culture of of freedom. It's spread a culture of self-reliance and kind of being true to yourself, because you're it's your own personal choice. You're the one that decides. Now, culture can be spread by the sword, and that's where we're at risk here is not our own personal salvation, but do we want to live in a world where we pay tax to people that hate us, or do we want to live in a world where we pay tax to the people that have the same morals and beliefs as we do?
And I think that's a great summary for us to end on, because there's not much more to say on this matter. It's important that we're educated. It's important that we know what we're looking at. This is a very touchy subject. I want to again say that I don't hate anyone or any people or any religion. I just believe that Jesus Christ is true. I believe that what I've said here is historically accurate, and supported by the written and archaeological evidence. We need to pray. We need to pray for our world. We need to pray for Islam. I'm not going to call them our enemies. I don't see them as that. They're lost. They're lost, just as lost as the evolutionists are. Evolutionists are really dumb. It's a really dumb thing. And so I think that's something that, we're going to discuss on our next episode. So join in on our next episode. We're going to talk about how dumb evolution is, how dumb people who believe evolution are. And I'm not trying to be mean by saying that. I'm saying that you are so educated that you're dumb. The evidence doesn't support what you think you believe. You call everyone else religious. You, in fact, are religious. Evolutionists are religious. They believe in nothing.
There's a great quote that I don't fully know the origination of it, but it's your mind is so open that your brains have fallen out.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, man. It's important that we do touch base on evolution, though, because they're teaching it to our children as fact, and they're teaching our children that they're an accident, that they weren't created by a loving father, and they're teaching our children that they need to listen to the adults in charge, and the adults in charge are currently pedophiles and pedivores and predators and perverts. So we need to address that. We need to get rid of evolution. We need to replace it with the truth of creationism from the book of Genesis and God's truth. We got to stop calling Christianity religion, right?
Yeah.
It's not religion. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
The rest of them
truth.
are religions,
yeah.
Right? It's just the truth. So, I stand by that, and I think that's a good point of discussion for us next episode.
Yeah, that's a great point that Christianity is truth. Religion is the practice of Christianity.
Correct. And that's it'll be a great point of discussion for us. So join us on next episode. Adam Revival, Dr. Stephen Lowe, Ryan Listerman. Peace and
Amen.
love.
Amen.